feeling of the weight of your head on the floor. And then you could be letting your head roll a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. And keep all these movements easy, not pushing anything. I have muted everyone now. So remember, if you would like to talk, just press the space bar on your device and hold it down. And then from letting your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left, just settle your head on the floor. Notice how your shoulders are resting. Could you let your shoulders settle down a little bit more and be heavier? Notice how your elbows are resting on the floor, and elbows are a place where it's good if we can let them be heavy on the ground. And then your hands may be on the ground or your hands may be on your belly. And again, notice where your hands are resting, how your hands are resting. And then let your attention slide all the way down to your feet. And if your legs are long, you feel the back of your heel on the ground. And if your knees are bent, you feel your footprints on the ground. And we're actually going to start with our feet today. So when you're ready, if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and stand both feet on the floor. And take a moment to feel the contact of the soles of your feet on the floor. So the first thing we're going to do with the right foot is just start to tap your right toes on the floor. So you pick up the front of your foot and just tap the toes on the floor. That's it, Rashmi, just up, that's it, good. Tap the toes on the floor a few times. Good. And then do the opposite movement in that foot. Pick up your heel and drop your heel or tap your heel on the floor. Oh, so you've got to keep your toes on the floor when you're picking your heel up. That's it. So pick your heel up, keeping your toes down. Good. Good. That's nice. And then move between, one time picking up the toes, one time picking up the heel. That's it. So the foot, you're lifting up the heel and then the toes. Good. So just a couple more times there. Toes, heel, toes, heel. And then let that go and lengthen this leg out on the floor. Just this leg, and feel the back of your heel on the floor, and you could let your leg roll a little bit to the right and to the left. That's it, good. And you could also stretch into your heel and then just let the leg relax for a moment. So let that leg go, let it be floppy, and then bend your knee and stand your foot on it, on the floor again. And come to the left leg now and come to tapping your left toes on the ground. So keep the left knee bent, Mel, that's it. Keep both knees bent, in fact. Both knees are bent, but you're tapping the left toes on the ground. That's it, tapping the left toes on the ground. And then change over so you're lifting the heel and you're tapping your heel on the ground. That's it, keeping your toes down. Good. And then move between the two, tapping the toes, tapping the heel. And in this movement, you really feel the movement of the ankle as well as the contact of your foot on the floor. Good, so just do that a couple more times and then lengthen your left leg out on the ground. As you lengthen it out, feel the contact of the back of your heel on the ground. Then you can roll your leg a little bit side to side across the back of your heel. That's it. And then you can also, like we did on the other side, stretch into your heel for a moment. As you stretch into your heel, you feel, that's it, stretch into the heel rather than the toes, Rashmi. That's it, good. You feel the muscles in the front of your leg engage and then relax your leg. Very nice. And then bend that knee. So you've got both knees bent, both feet standing on the floor. And what I'd like you to do is just start to tilt your pelvis a little bit. So you're tipping your pelvis towards your head and away from your head. That's it. So you're rocking your pelvis up and down on the floor. So when you tip your pelvis towards your head, the very bottom of your pelvis comes off the floor a little bit. When you tip your pelvis away from your head, your lower back arches off the floor a little. And I would like you, when you're ready, to take this movement into a couple of easy bridge poses. So sinking down into your feet, letting the bottom of your pelvis tilt off the floor, letting the whole of your pelvis come away from the floor and some of your spine. And then rolling back down again. So keeping it quite easy. We'll do this maybe 2 or 3 times, rolling up and down through bridge pose, trying to feel that we really sink into the feet. We feel very steady and stable through the legs. We're sending the knees forwards over our footprints. And then we're trying to feel this, I say fluidity in the spine. Our spines may feel a bit stiff at this point. So yeah, as much as possible. So in your own time, maybe rolling up and down one more time. Noticing how it feels. And as I always say, as you're placing your spine back down on the floor, just trying to do it vertebrae by vertebrae. You can do one, yes, you can do one last bridge pose if you like, otherwise folding your knees into your chest. We're going to come back in a moment to a little bit more bridge pose, so don't feel it's your only opportunity. So fold your knees into your chest and see how that feels. Fold your knees in, hold around your knees. You could rock a little bit from side to side. And I'd also like you here to, when you're ready, take your legs up to the ceiling and give them a bit of a shake out. You can add your arms in if you like. So really, yeah, really shake out the legs, Rashmi, if you can. That's it, shake out the legs. Good. Very nice. And then come back down, and you're either going to lie with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor, or with your legs long, so whichever is more comfortable. Because we're going to do now some movements in the upper back, the sort of shoulders, the arms, and yeah, if you can lie with your legs long, then it would probably make it slightly easier. We're going to do that movement where we take our arms up towards the ceiling, we touch our hands in prayer pose. So hands touched in prayer pose over our chest, that's it. So 2 things to remember. Point your hands up to the ceiling, Rashmi. That's it, good. 2 things to remember. You keep your hands stuck together. You keep your elbows straight. You've made a triangle and you're going to start to rock your triangle from side to side. So you're rocking across your upper back. Let your head move with your arms, but don't let the hands slide, yeah? So if your hands are starting to slide, you're going too far. So you're rocking your weight towards the back of your right shoulder, towards the back of your left shoulder. So your shoulders are moving, your arms are moving, your head is moving, not your pelvis. So if your knees are bent, try to make sure you're not letting your pelvis move. Good. And you're keeping your hands, very nice, keeping your hands stuck together, keeping your elbows straight. Okay, just once, twice more in each direction. And then from here, you're going to bring your arms down and cross them over your chest. So it's like you're giving yourself a hug. Have one arm completely on top. So actually at the moment, I can see you've sort of got, you've got your arms, yeah, have them. So one arm is completely on top. It wasn't quite like that. Yeah, that's it. That's more like it. So one arm is completely on top. And then carry on that rocking from side to side with your arms crossed like this. That's very nice. So again, you're rocking across your upper back, giving yourself a bit of a hug. Mel, make sure in this one that your knees are not tilting if that's possible. It's obviously harder if your knees are bent. Good. It might be quite a small movement. Yeah, you could have your legs long if that's good, but I'm not sure if it's so comfortable for your lower back. Yeah? Yes, you might want to change the cross of your arms. So put the other arm on top and carry on rocking a little bit more from side to side. Sorry, I've just got a beeping noise in the kitchen that I'm going to turn off. Yes, you can hear it. So a little bit more rocking from side to side. And then uncross your arms. Let your arms come to rest on the floor beside you. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. So these movements are very good for freeing up the rib cage and helping our breathing feel a little bit more free in our bodies. And then from here, we're going to revisit bridge pose 2 or 3 times. So when you're ready, bend your knees, bring your feet to stand on the floor, feel your footprints on the floor. And then when you're ready, starting to sink down into your feet, letting your pelvis come away from the floor, letting your spine pick up, and just see how it feels now, having moved the upper back a little bit more. How does it feel to roll up and down in bridge pose? It might not necessarily be that you go any higher, but it might mean that you feel the upper spine, the spine between the shoulder blades, perhaps gets a little bit more involved in your bridge pose without any feeling of forcing it. Good. Yeah, so 2 or 3 times rolling up and down, just really this feeling of being very planted into your feet, very steady through your legs. So as your pelvis comes up, you sink down into your feet, you send your knees forwards. Good. Rashmi, you could ever so slightly turn your heels out a teeny bit to make your feet a bit more parallel. Oh, no, that was your toes. The other way, the heels. Yeah, try like that. It might just make you a bit more steady. Yeah, a bit more steady through your feet and legs. Good. Maybe one last bridge pose. I say last, we'll probably we may revisit bridge pose right. I think we were right at the end of class. I'd like to commit us to doing that in case we end up somewhere else. One last bridge pose, rolling up and down, just seeing how the spine feels now. How does the body feel? And each time we roll up and down, maybe it's an opportunity for us to release a little bit more. And then after this last bridge pose, once more, you're going to fold your knees in towards your chest. And again, start by holding around your knees. Start with a little bit of rocking from side to side. And then I wanted us just to do a little bit of our happy baby here. So what I'd like to do, from having your knees folded into your chest, and keep the thighs close to your chest. Your knees can be quite wide now. Take the soles of your feet up towards the ceiling. And then just see where can you hold on to your legs. So it could be your calves, it could be your ankles, could be around the back of your thighs, could be your toes. So catch onto your legs somewhere and then see how it is once you've caught onto your feet to rock side to side. You catch your feet or your legs, it doesn't matter. So it's not better to catch your feet, it's best to catch where you can catch comfortably. So you're catching somewhere onto your legs or feet, and you're doing a bit of rocking from side to side. Now we can do this with the legs being quite passive, but we can also do it by reaching up into one leg and then the other. So you could reach up into your foot that's coming towards the center. Yeah, so you could be making yourself rock side to side. You could reach into your foot that's going out to the side, but that might make you more likely to fall over. So just a bit of, a little bit of happy baby rocking, very nice. If you want to reach your leg out to the side and rock to your side, that's fine. When you've had enough of that, you can also just then take your legs up to the ceiling and shake them out. Good, really give them a good shake out. Then I think, yes, and just before we come off our backs, I'd like you to lie. So bring your legs back onto the floor, lengthen your legs out. So we're going to do sort of a long stretch on the floor. Lengthen your legs out. Take your arms onto the floor, either side of your head. And you're going to interlink your fingers And then if you can, turn your palms away from you. So you're going to stretch your hands away from the center of your body, and you're also going to stretch into your heels. So can you stretch your heels one way? So that's it, stretch into your heels and then stretch into your hands. So you're very long on the floor. Obviously don't do something that's going to pull your shoulders and not feel comfortable. This is feeling being very long on the floor. You can release, you can, as you exhale, stretch again. And then you can let that all go. And we're going to be making our way up into standing. So perhaps fold your knees in towards you, roll onto your side, have a couple of breaths there, and then we'll come over into standing. Oh no, we're not coming into standing, sorry, we're coming onto hands and knees. completely got confused. Of course. So we're coming onto hands and knees. And we're thinking a bit more about feet here. So when you arrive on hands and knees, I'd like you to be on hands and knees with your toes tucked under. And we're going to start by doing a bit of rocking forwards and back with the toes tucked under. And seeing how this feels. And it's hands and knees, toes tucked under. We're doing a little sequence and we're going to repeat it 2 times. So from being on hands and knees, rocking with the toes tucked under, from here, you're going to start by walking your hands in towards your feet, letting your knees come off the floor. So you're up on the balls of your feet here. And at this point, I always like to spread my toes out a bit, particularly the little toe gets a bit trapped behind the other one. So I spread my toes out and then do a little bit of rocking here. And I've unfortunately hit a creaky floorboard. I don't know whether you can hear that or not. Not just my knees and my ankles creaking. And then from here, one of our old favourites we haven't done much of, letting the knees come down to the floor, sitting back over our heels with our toes tucked under. What a joy. So, you may not want to be here for too long, and particularly, Helen, if it aggravates your feet. So let the shoulders drop, have a breath or 2. Whenever I do these, I think, gosh, I should do them more. And then come to hands and knees and untuck your toes and drum your feet on the floor. So this is much nicer. Drumming the tops of your feet on the floor. And then lengthen each leg out behind you in turn. So tuck your toes under, lengthen each leg out behind you. As we do this, we let the back of the knee open, we're lengthening through the back of the calf all the way to the ankle. And then what we'll do is come from here, we're halfway there, on into plank pose. So make sure your shoulders are over your wrists, you lengthen one leg back, you lengthen the other leg back. You have a few breaths here and see how it feels. Looking down with your gaze just sort of forwards of your fingers. From plank, you're going to sit back into kneeling. Now, I know kneeling isn't comfortable for everyone, but it's really good for our knees and our ankles. So if you need to, so Helen, it might be good for you to have a cushion possibly under the tops of your feet. So I think if kneeling is tricky, but you've got a cushion to hand, then grab it so that you can sit in kneeling for a moment, just to give your hands a bit of a shake out. And if you think about in kneeling, we're stretching the fronts of the ankles, as well as lots of other really helpful things. And then from kneeling, we're going to come back to placing our hands on the floor. And this time we're from rocking forwards and back. So back to our first movement. This time from this movement, we're going to come into dog pose. And when we're in dog pose, we're going to work the feet. So you're going to move into dog pose from this rocked back position. So resting down through your hands and then picking your knees up off the floor, lengthening your legs into dog pose. And once you're in dog pose, the first thing I'd like you to do is bending one knee at a time. And as you bend your knee, really let your toes flex. So you're coming right up onto the ball of one foot and then the ball of the other foot. So you're working into your feet in dog pose. Very nice, good. Let your head go in dog pose. Good. Good, lovely. And I think from dog pose, yes, it is in my little sequence. From dog pose, whenever you're ready, you fold down into child pose for a couple of breaths. Or if you're not so keen on child, you can always be in kneeling. Good, so make sure wherever you are, in your child pose or in kneeling, that your shoulders are as soft and relaxed as possible. You can feel your elbows giving their weight to the ground, like we were thinking right at the beginning of class, elbows being heavy and relaxed. And if you're in child pose, you also may feel that contact of your forehead on the floor. Yes, if you're kneeling, your elbows can still be heavy, even though they're not touching the ground. And then we're going to come back onto hands and knees, and we're going to repeat all those movements, starting right back from the very first one, where we were rocking on hands and knees with our toes tucked under. So this is our little sequence we've gone through at once. So coming back to hands and knees, tucking the toes under, doing a little bit of rocking forwards and back. So what we're really thinking about here is with the toes tucked under as we rock back, the feet are having to bend a lot. You may not like it that much, but it's quite good for them. So the next time we rock back, walk your hands into your knees. Pick your knees up off the floor. So you're in this little sort of, it's a bit of a squat, but your heels are off the ground. And then you can spread your toes out if you like. And then you're going to do a little bit of rocking here. So tilting your knees towards the floor, knees come up again. I'm resting on my fingertips, but you could be on your knuckles. You could be, it feels a bit low to me to be on the flats of the hands, but that might work better for you. And then from here, let your knees come all the way down. Sitting back onto your heels and seeing how this delightful one feels the second time. It might, I'm sort of thinking maybe it feels slightly better, I'm not quite sure. We let the shoulders relax, we try and smile here, even in our own homes. And then we come forwards onto the hands, we run the feet on the floor. That's a nice bit. And then lengthen each leg and turn out behind you. So this is also a nice bit. One leg and then the other leg, letting the back of the knee open. And then like we did in the first time we did this sequence, we're coming on into plank pose. So make sure your shoulders are over your wrists. I will come and have a look at your planks in a moment. Lengthening one leg out, lengthen the other leg out behind you in your long straight line of plank. Very nice, super. Yes, wonderful plank poses. What a lovely view. So really, really good. And then when you come back down from plank pose again, sit back into kneeling, using a cushion if you need to, just remembering that kneeling is a really helpful position to be able to sit in. So it's therapeutic for the knees and the ankles, but it's also a helpful sitting position to have in our repertoire. And then from shaking your hands out, come back onto hands and knees. We've got really big handprints on the floor, because now, rocking forwards and back with the toes tucked under, we're going to be coming into dog pose again. So we want to have these big handprints on the floor. Your hands can be quite wide apart, particularly if your shoulders are feeling a bit stiff. So toes tucked under, rocking your hips back, picking your knees up off the floor, coming up into dog pose. Now in this dog pose, one leg, 1 foot at a time, I would like you to roll through the tips of the toes onto the top of your toes. So again, we're working into the feet and the ankles. So make sure you're doing that 1 foot at a time. You're not trying to do it to both feet. That's it. They're still letting the head go, rolling through the tips of your toes onto the top of your toes. So we stretch, as we do so, we stretch out the front of the ankle, we stretch out the top of the toes. Much nicer than kneeling on the top of the toes, which I'm not going to inflict on you today. When you've done some of that, it might be nice in dog pose just to have a few breaths just being in dog pose. Your both knees could be doing the same thing, so maybe both knees are a bit bent. Letting your head go, resting down through your arms, and whenever you're ready then, once more folding down into child pose or kneeling, whichever suits you best, and having a couple of quiet breaths there. So letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. So I thought we would just do one more thing on our hands. So our hands and knees, but we're actually going to be going into plank pose again. And not all of you may want to do this, but on into side planks. So probably not so good if you've got any issues with your wrists. Actually, I thought you would probably enjoy this, and some of the others of you, I know you like the challenge. So maybe just watch me for a moment, because you've got, so from plank pose, we come onto our side. You've got these 2 feet options. So you can have one foot in front of the other, which is slightly easier, or you can bring your foot on top of the other foot, so you've only got the edge of one foot on the floor. So yes, if you want to have the joy of trying your side plank, if you don't want to, you could just do a normal plank pose, but let's see how it feels. We have to do that on both sides if you're going to do it. So unless you've got a wrist issue on one side. So first of all, you're coming into plank pose, and then from plank pose, you're rolling onto the side of one foot, and you could stay on the sides of both feet, which is a little bit easier. And we're trying not to let our pelvis sag down to the floor, which is one of the challenges in this one. A few breaths on one side, and then you need to move over onto the, you might want to come down before you move on to the other side. So again, yes, very lovely, beautiful. Francis, just let your pelvis come down slightly towards the floor. Yeah, it's always a challenge in this. If we're trying not to let the pelvis go down, sometimes it comes too high up. Yeah, even again, it's crept up a bit. So yes, yes. So just like plank pose, we're trying to let the pelvis not be down or up. Yes, do come down if you're still on side one, heavens, come down. Give your hands a shake out. So you need to try side 2 if you haven't already. And then we will do a little exercise just for the wrists once we've done this. So if you haven't come on to side 2, then seeing how side 2 feels. I'll just have a little look at you if you're there. That's it. So Rashmi, your pelvis should be in, yes, not sticking up. That's it, good, well done. Very nice, yes, beautiful. Rosie, that looks very lovely, everyone. Well done. Beautiful. Well done, Marie, very nice. Lovely. When you come out of this, yes, I think Rashmi's having a drink, which might be a good idea. I was going to say, come onto hands and knees and just do this one where you're bringing the backs of your hands together. So we move the wrists in the other direction. Really helpful. As you do this, yeah, this one here. So we're touching the backs of the wrists together. Let the shoulders drop. Good. And you could also give your hands a shake out. So we're going to come through one more, just sort of a quiet, normal dog pose, through a forward bend, up into standing. So yes, no more side plank for the moment. So coming back onto hands and knees, and so it's quite nice to contrast the feeling of side plank and the planks with dog pose. So big handprints on the floor, tucking the toes under, exhaling, rocking the hips back over the heels, picking your knees up off the floor, and seeing how dog pose feels. Remember, you can be bending both knees, you can be bending one knee at a time. Can you be in a quiet dog pose where you can feel the movement of your breath within you? And if you can't, that's absolutely fine, but just see if there is that possibility. Make sure you're letting your head hang. Good. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. And then in your own time, walking your hands in towards your feet. So you end up in a forward bend. And just see how that feels. If it's better for your back at this point to bend your knees and rest your elbows on your thighs, you can do, letting your head go. Otherwise, let the arms hang. And in a moment, when you're ready, you can let the breath come in. As you exhale, you can sink into your heels and roll up into standing. So arriving in standing. So let's see, first of all, how it feels to be in standing. We've done quite a lot of work into our feet already today. So in standing, have a look at your feet. So you can organise them on the floor. For me, always seeing my feet helps me to feel them. And then I'd like you to close your eyes if that feels okay. And just a little bit of swaying from side to side. So we feel our weight shifting over our right leg, over our left leg. Just swaying from side to side. Side to side. And with swaying, you can then settle. You can drop down more evenly through both feet. So I think I was talking probably on Monday, one of the classes, about all of these things we do. They are a process. So standing is a process of little by little, we maybe can settle more fully into our feet. It's not going to happen immediately. I mean, sometimes it does, but those are usually the rare occasions. So yes, just for a moment, settling down. Maybe give your arms a little shake out, that helps. And then we'll do a few more movements and come back to standing. So first of all, I think I always like to do these few movements in standing. First of all, this sort of easy swinging twist, moving from side to side, slapping the hands onto the body, feeling the whole of us in motion. So if you're leaving your foot behind on the floor, your feet behind, then let your heel come off the floor. So it's the foot you're turning away from, that heel can come up. I think you all know this, and you don't want to think about it too much. You just want to let your body move. Okay, a couple more times doing this. And then let that go. Settle your feet back down again. So look back down at the feet. Feel the feet on the floor. Let a breath come in. As the breath leaves you, take your arms up and then start reaching up through one arm and through the other. And as you reach through one arm, shift your weight into that leg and foot. So just look forwards rather than up. So feel that you're reaching up through one side and then the other. And in a moment from here, we're going to then swoop down into a forward bend. Swoop or sweep or roll, just something that feels quite fluid. So from here, maybe exhaling, I usually let my arms come around the circle. Doesn't really matter what you do as long as it feels pleasant. Nice. It could be even more than pleasant. And in your forward bending, once more, if you would like to bend your knees and rest your elbows on your thighs, or bend your knees as much as you like. Good. So try, yes, that's it. Stay there, Rashmi. Let your knees bend a bit. Let your head be floppy. Let your arms be floppy. What we're feeling in our forward bend is the back of the legs lengthening little by little and the lower back releasing. You can, when you're ready, let a breath come in, exhale, sink into your heels, roll back up into standing. And so again, I think I was probably talking about this the other day as well. Forward bend is very much a process. Each time we go down, perhaps we can release a little bit more. So coming back into standing, give your legs a little shake out, if you like. We're going to do a few arm things for the moment and then come back to the feet. So settling your feet down, hip width apart and parallel. We're going to start to draw a big circle with one arm. And as you're doing so, let your pelvis move. Yeah, so let the whole of you come along with these circling movements. So I'm not trying just to move my arm. I'm actually actively letting my body come along and help me. So a bit like we do when we're swimming. We don't just move the arms. We let the whole body move. And you can circle your arm one way. And you can circle the other way. So I quite like to change quite frequently when I'm circling. And again, if you encounter any tightness or stiffness, then go easy rather than push it. Very nice. And we'll move on to the other side. So again, keep it easy. Let your body move. So as you take your arm back, you let your whole shoulder move back. You let your pelvis move back. And if you're circling your arm forwards, the same thing. You let your shoulder, your pelvis move forwards. So you probably feel your feet, your weight shifting around in your feet. So that would be a good indication that you're letting the whole of your body move with your arm. Okay. And then have a little shake out of everything. We're going to do this sequence. So I'm just going to very briefly turn my back on you. We're going to do this sequence, which takes us from here to here to here, circling our arms, yeah, like this. So our starting point is here in prayer pose. So organise your feet so your feet are hip width apart and parallel. Now in this movement, we are really just moving the arms and the shoulders. We're not moving the rest of the body. So it might feel a bit more intense in the shoulder joint. So from here, let a breath come in, and as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Touch your hands in prayer pose over your head, and then bring your hands down to the base of your neck. And bring your hands onto the sort of back of the shoulders, either side of the base of your neck. And then let one arm come out in a big circle to the side, turning your palm back. So then you can bring your hand up your back a little bit. And then the other arm comes out in this big circle out to the side. Palm faces back, hand comes up your back a little bit. So we're heading towards that sort of reverse namaste. And then the first arm circles back up again. So I think you've hopefully got the hang of what we're doing now. And then the second arm. So we keep circling one arm and then the other. And it's really up to you. You might be nice, if your shoulders are feeling stiff, just to carry on with these circling movements. So you might feel a bit like, I don't know, a windmill. Sometimes I say I feel like one of those Hindu goddesses. I'm trying to think now if it's Shiva with lots of arms. It's a nice way to feel. If you come to this one, if your fingers touch and you want to catch your hands or just touch your fingers for a couple of breaths, you could do. Yeah, doesn't matter if they don't. Again, if you come to this one and you can feel the palm, you know, that where the palms, can the palms touch, and you want a couple of breaths there. But you could also just keep on circling. And I will release you from this torture in a moment, because I know these ones are a bit tough. And it can feel strange to be moving the arms, but not the rest of the body. Okay, so perhaps ending with our hands down somewhere behind our backs, and then giving the arms and the legs a shake out. And let's just come back down into another forward bend and let the arms be floppy. And we'll also trail the arms around our body in the Weeping Willow movement. So feet hip width apart and parallel. rolling forwards into a forward bend, letting the head go, letting the arms go. Stay in your forward bend your knees as much as you like. And then with your arms very sort of loose and fluid, trailing your fingertips around the fronts of your feet from the right to the left. So you're imagining, very nice, you're imagining you're a weeping willow, trailing your branches in a river. So you want to be quite sort of languid, lazy, fluid. Yeah. Good. Floppy. But yes, very nice. Very nice. And from this side to side trailing, you could let yourself have a breath or two, just hanging forwards in the centre. Sinking into the heels, letting the weight of the head and the arms and the shoulders and the spine tumble forwards. And in your own time, rolling up on an exhalation. And let's just, before we do a little bit more movement in standing, let's see again how it feels to come back into standing. So this process we're in of coming into Tadasana, mountain pose. So perhaps here, feet settle down, arms hanging, closing your eyes. You could be swaying from side to side. Just how mountain-like do you feel? So some of you were here on Friday last week where we had the Thich Nhat Hanh meditation of in standing, seeing ourselves as a mountain. So you could just now for a moment or two just ask yourself, how mountain-like do you feel? How rooted do your feet feel into the floor? And they may or may not feel rooted. And it doesn't matter. See if you can feel a cycle of breath move through you. Feel your breath coming in. Feel your breath leaving you. And one more time, feeling your breath coming in. Feeling your breath leaving you. Dropping your shoulders. Good. So we'll come to some walking movements now that we're going to then take into some standing balances. So come towards the back of your mat and we'll just do a little bit of walking along our mats first of all. So again, you can start off looking at your feet and then stop looking at your feet and find a point to focus your gaze on, somewhere on the wall in front of you. So from here, you're going to slowly start to walk forward. So you feel each foot as it comes onto the floor. It's a bit like a mini walking meditation. And then walk backwards up your mat. So you might need to go even more slowly. So feeling the footprint as it comes down in contact with the floor. You could also feel how you pick your foot up as well. So you reach the back of your mat and once more walk up your mat, feeling how you bring your foot in contact with the floor. So the heel touches the ground, and then the front of the foot. Reaching your mat and once more walking backwards up your mat again and just slowing down your walking. So you're feeling how your foot contacts the floor and how your foot picks up off the floor. So we're going to do a little series now of walking into a standing balance, into the, I suppose, warrior 3 balance, but we'll start quite small. So we're going to step forwards with the right foot first of all. So you're going to take a step, 1. You're going to step the left foot forwards, 2. And then the right foot, 3. And then what I'd like you to do is swing your left leg. So I'm standing on my right foot, I'm swinging my left leg. Now, you could swing your leg quite a lot by bending your knee and so you're kicking your foot. So perhaps do that. And then try not to bend your knee and swing your leg less, keeping the leg straight. Then come back to the back of your mat again. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So again, starting feet side by side, hip width apart and parallel, and then look forwards as you walk forwards rather than down at your feet. So this time we're going to step the left foot forwards. 1, 2 is the right foot, 3 is the left foot again. Can we swing the right leg a little bit forwards and back? Now, you could make it a bigger movement, but that's it, by kicking that leg, by bending the knee, swinging the leg. But then can you make it smaller and not bend your knee? A smaller movement. So your foot is skimming the floor and the knee stays straight. Yeah. And you might be thinking, oh, hang on a minute, my leg is not long enough for the other foot to skim the floor. But if we shift our weight, the body makes these adjustments. So our foot can skim the floor. It might be harder on one side. Let's come back again and go a little bit further with this one. I'll just show, before you do it, I might just show you. So this time, from here, we're going to have the hands on the back of the pelvis and we're going to let that leg tip back and our body tips forwards in response. So we take the arms out of the equation, so they're on the back of the pelvis for the moment. So back of the mat, looking at your feet, feet hip width apart and parallel, and then we're going to step forwards with the right foot. 1, 2, 3. So you're standing on your right foot, you've got your hands on the back of your pelvis, you've got a straight left leg, and your left leg is skimming the floor a bit. And then can you start to tip that leg back and let your body tip forwards as your leg tips up. It's fine if you tilt over, you can always come in and out a couple of times. So you let your leg tip up and you let your body tip forwards. You're trying to only, very nice, only let your body tip forwards as far as your leg tips back. That's it. Good. Very nice. Lovely. Beautiful. And now with all of these balances, particularly these ones, I think when we're going forwards, we might catch them for a moment and then fall out. That's fine. Let's try the other side. So come back towards the front of your, no, come to the back of your mat. Back of your mat, we're going to step forwards with the left foot. So 1, 2, 3. Hands on the back of your pelvis. Can we shift the weight into the left foot? Can we let the right leg skim the floor? Can we tip the right leg back and let the body tilt forwards? Can we still be breathing? You can come back up, so you don't have to stay there long. If you feel steady on this side, you might stay there longer. So quite interesting, these poses. There's we have a certain amount of control of them over them, but as you know, we're not completely in control of what happens, which maybe is why they get challenging sometimes. They can make us feel a bit anxious, but yeah, it doesn't matter if we fall over, we come back in. Now this time we're going to do one further stage. I'll show you. So this time we're going to bring the opposite arm. So when we come to stand on the right foot, we're going to have the right arm up by the side of the head, and we're trying to keep the arm there as we tip forwards. So it's opposite arm and leg. So at the back of your mat, let's step forwards with the right foot. So 1, 2, 3. We're bringing our weight onto the right foot. The left leg is skimming the floor. We've got our left hand on the pelvis. Our right arm up by the side of our head. Could be wide away from the side of the head. And then can we tip forwards, keeping this feeling of being long from our fingertips to our back heel. The hand on the back of the pelvis could help our pelvis be level. Very nice. And you might want to try that a couple of times. That's it. So you've got, that's it. Good. You've got the right hand up by the side of your head. It could be wide out to the side. Good. Look, so I've got the right arm. Just really trying to breathe yourself long from your heel through to your fingertips. Very nice. And if you find that taking that arm up, I was just thinking then, there's always the option that you could be tilting forwards. And then once you've tilted forwards, you could take the arm up, but sometimes the arm ends up a bit low. So that's why I was thinking we started with the arm up, but you've always got other options. Let's try side 2. So giving your legs a shake out one more time, settling back down, feet hip width apart and parallel, stepping forwards with the left foot. 1, 2, 3. So here we've got the right leg skimming the floor, right foot skimming the floor, right hand on the back of the pelvis, left arm is coming up by the side of the head. And we try and keep that arm there as we tip forwards. Breathing ourselves long into our left fingertips and our right heel. Very nice, good, beautiful. Very lovely. Well done. Well done. Yes, if you feel that if you want one last opportunity with this one, you can do. So from this place, the foot is skimming, we let the leg tip back, we keep the arm where it is. We maybe catch, beautiful, we maybe catch the movement for a moment. So, yeah, lovely. Or maybe we don't. And then let's fold forwards into a forward bend. So these ones can be a little bit challenging on the lower back. We're going to fold forwards into a forward bend. See how that forward bend feels. See how your lower back feels. So a couple of things that might be nice. One would be to bend your knees quite a lot so your chest comes close to your thighs. So it might even feel that you're sort of halfway towards a squat. And often if I do that one, if I bend my knees a lot, then I quite like to catch my hands or catch one wrist around the back of my legs. Let the arms go. These are just all possibilities. So there might be another forward bend. If you're doing the forward bend, make sure your feet are really planted on the ground. So you can let your head go, let your arms go. And then if you bent your knees a lot and caught your hands around the back of your legs, maybe release your arms, let your knees straighten a little bit, come back into a normal forward bend, and then roll up into standing. And have a little bit of a shake out. So we're going to see how standing feels once more. We're going to do a little bit of just moving between rounding forwards and coming into a standing back arch. And then we'll be going down all the way from a forward bend through a squat this time. So if for your squat you wanted a book or a wedge or a block, then have that to hand. So I'm going to go side on because I'd like you to settle in standing. And this feeling that standing is neutral. So our feet are hip width apart and parallel. And our gaze is coming straight forwards. And we're letting the shoulders drop. We're feeling our shoulders are over our hips and our hips are over our heels. Everything can just drop down to the floor. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then if we have a hand or both hands on our belly, what's it like if we let the pelvis come forwards and the gaze come up a bit? And try that a couple of times. So start looking forwards and letting your pelvis come forward. So letting your weight come more into the fronts of your feet. And then let yourself roll down into a forward bend. Let your head go. Feel the weight in your heels. And then rolling up again. Moving through standing, through your neutral, bringing one hand onto your belly. And again, one arm up by the side of your head. So can we look up? Can we let the pelvis come forwards? Can we come into a little bit more of a standing back arch, bending the knees if you like, so you can drop your tailbone more if that's helpful. And then again, roll back down into a forward bend. Let your head go, let your arms go. Now, it can be quite helpful for a standing back arch if our feet are quite wide apart. So I just adjusted mine in my forward bend. So when you come back into standing, if it's helpful to take the feet wider. So when you come up, I would say try with the other arm by the side of your head. The other hand on your belly. So we're trying to let as the pelvis comes forwards, as we look up, as the weight comes towards the fronts of our feet, we open through the front of the body. And then go down again. We'll just do one more. Down again. Let the head go. Let the arms go. And then one last time, rolling up. So rolling up. This time you can take both arms up. Remember, there's always this option to bend your knees and drop your tailbone, if that helps your lower back stay happier. And we're really trying to get the pelvis to go forwards. When we take both arms up, we almost have to let the pelvis come forwards, don't we? Or we're going to fall over. Okay, and then this time all the way down into a forward bend and on through a squat. And letting your knees bend forwards over your feet. This is where you might want your block or your wedge under your heels. And I'm realizing that my feet were quite wide apart, probably a bit too wide for my squats, but sometimes that can be quite helpful. So in your squat, have a few breaths here. You know, if you know that squatting is good for your lower back, make sure you've got something under your heels if that helps you to stay here for a little bit longer. Letting the pelvis drop. From our squat, we're going to come onto hands and knees. So from here, like we said, yeah, can you let your heels come up now? Can you roll through the tops of your feet onto hands and knees? We're going to come into child pose in a moment, but I would just like you on hands and knees to do a little bit of your tail wagging movement and see how that feels. On hands and knees, a bit of tail wagging. If you also feel that you wanted to do a bit of cat or mix them up a bit, oh, it's very exciting. A sparrow has just flown right onto the Russian sage outside my window. I really love sparrows. That's terribly exciting. So rounding, yeah, you can do a bit of cat, rounding your back, dipping the spine. You could add in, if your lower back's feeling particularly tight, you could round your back and wag your tail at the same time. And then whenever you want to, it's probably nice if you're coming into cat pose, it's probably nice to round your back. No, sorry, into child pose, it's probably nice to round your back in cat. And then rock your hips back over your heels and come into child pose, or again, if you prefer, just a couple of quiet breaths in kneeling. So we started to think in those standing back arches of opening out the front of the body. So yes, just be in child pose or kneeling for the moment, having a few quiet breaths while I speak. We started to think about opening out the front of our bodies, and we're going to do a little bit more now. So we're going to be coming onto hands and knees, and from hands and knees, bringing one foot forwards between our hands into lunge. And we're just going to do a couple of different lunge variations. But if you, first of all, come into a sort of a normal lunge where your foot is between your hands and you've walked your back leg away from you. And we'll just have a few breaths here, settling through the front foot. Now, it really doesn't matter how you have your hands on the floor. It could be on your fingertips, it could be the flats of your hands, it could be your knuckles, whatever works for you. Because from here, what we're going to do next is walk this front foot out to the side a bit so that both hands come onto the inside of your foot. So in lunge, what our focus is this giving the weight of the pelvis to the floor, this opening out through the front of the back leg thigh. Now, this may be enough for you. If you're going to do the next bit, it probably is good to have your hands flat on the floor, because the next bit would be this delightful one where we let the back knee come off the floor. And we're taking a reasonable amount of weight through our hands. It's a little bit like plank pose. Maybe not quite as bad, maybe worse. Having a couple of breaths there. And then let that back knee come down. And then come back onto hands and knees. And we'll come onto side 2 of the lunge. So again, bring your foot forwards between your hands. Settle here. So I tend to like having my back toes tucked under in lunge. I think my knee feels more comfortable and I feel a bit less vulnerable around my pelvis, but you could have your back foot flat, at least for these first couple of lunges. And then from here, that front foot can walk out to the side of it, and our hands can come onto the inside of our foot. And at this point, so you could be staying here just in a lunge where your hands have come onto the inside of your front foot because you've walked that foot out. But if you wanted to go a little bit further, you would need to tuck your toes under now so that you could pick your back knee off the ground. And this does feel very, very sort of stretchy through the front of the pelvis, the front of that back leg thigh. So you need to breathe. You need to breathe well here. Good. So you're doing that one, just another breath or two. Come back down. Good. And then once more, fold back into child pose or kneeling, just so we let this front of the body. Why child pose feels quite nice after this is we're folding in the front of the body where we opened up. But it might be that if you're not so keen on child pose, you fold into child pose and then you sit up into kneeling for a couple of breaths. And then Francis and anyone else who's feeling deprived that we haven't done face up dog, that is what we will be doing next. So from here, if you're in child pose, you could actually plant your hands down onto the ground with your elbows off the floor and come up onto hands and knees. So we want to be in a long hands and knees position. So you could just be thinking, okay, what's it like? I'm in a long hands and knees position. I'm going to start to rock my pelvis forwards. When I was planning this class, I was thinking, oh, some tail wagging might be nice. So this side to side movement. So we swing our pelvis from side to side, back into child, and then forwards into face up dog. So that's a possibility. Another possibility, as you know, for your face up dog would be using the cat movements. And I like to tuck my toes under for these. So rounding the back, rocking the hips back over the heels like we did last week in sun salute. And then traveling forwards into face up dog with this rounded back that we then let the pelvis go. So again, if that sort of works better for you, these are options. And you might feel, I'm just going to sort of add this in as an option if you like, you might feel that you'd like to move up into normal, which we call down dog, from face up dog. So if you do, in a face up dog, you could tuck your toes under, come through this other face up dog where the knees come off the floor, and then all the way up into one last dog pose. You might want to walk your feet in a little bit. See how your dog pose feels. Have a few breaths. And so you can be in dog pose. If you feel you want to do a little bit more face up dog, you can. And then ending up in child pose. So in your face up dog, and Rashmi, I can't quite tell, in face up dog, our pelvis is hanging, yeah? So cobra is when our pubic bone comes onto the floor. And just to clarify that, in face up dog, our thighs are on the floor, our knees are on the floor, but not our pelvis. So where are we? Good. So yes, just a little bit more dog, face up dog if you like, otherwise folding into child pose or kneeling. Lovely, very nice. That looks very nice. Dog pose now, Sharon. Good, beautiful. Good. So Rashmi, if you feel you want to leave us now, you can do, lovely. We're sort of starting to do some more movements down on the ground. So from child pose, we're going to be slithering forwards to lie on our bellies. So as you know, I'm always trying to squeeze a little bit of this in because it's really good for our breathing, for our lungs. So in this, make yourselves comfortable. We're not going to do anything particularly fancy here. I've got one hand on top of the other and the side of my head resting on my top hand. And I think you're just settling on your belly. And how does it feel to be lying on your belly, breathing? How does the breath feel? Where do you feel your breath? How is it for you to be on your belly? So for many, many years, I really, really hated lying on my belly. So I completely sympathise if it's not a natural place for you. Give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. So that can help. If we wiggle the pelvis, it can help us be a bit more settled on our belly. And then see if you can let the pelvis and the legs settle and slide your hands a little bit further forwards. So your arms are either side of your head and your hands are maybe forwards of your head. And then if you have your forehead, just going to do some very simple lifting movements for the head. So as you exhale, sinking into your elbows and your forearms and your hands, lifting your head, coming back down as you breathe in. So your gaze travels forwards along the floor. So do this maybe half a dozen times, lifting the head, sinking down into the elbows and the forearms. Maybe moving on your out breath. That's it, coming back down as you breathe in. Just letting your gaze travel forwards, but not too far. So what's comfortable? Yeah. And the most important thing here is trying to feel the muscles in the upper back are part of this movement. Good. Very nice. We make one last one and then settle your head back down on the back of your hand. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. Again, how does it feel to be breathing, lying on your belly? And then bending your knees so the soles of your feet come up towards the ceiling. And then tilting your feet from side to side. As long as that feels comfortable for you. So quite a lot of you, I know, like that one. Yes, I'd have maybe have your head down as you do that one, Rashmi, I think. That's it. So yeah, rest the head down. Just let the feet tilt from side to side. Nice. And then from here, lying on your belly, we're going to be rolling over onto our backs, and we are going to be doing some movement here, but if you think you may cool down and you need a warmer layer on, otherwise see how easily you can roll from your back, your belly onto your back without having to get up, unless you need to put on something warm. So can you roll over? That's, yeah, very nice. Can you roll over? Yes, and flop on your backs, lovely. And just see where you end up on your back. When you arrive on your back, how do you want to lie? And just lie, what do you want to do? Yes, that's quite nice. Smell legs up in the air, having a little shake out. Some of you are just flopped on your back. Yes, that's Rosie. That's Rosie catching the feet. So really, when you're on your back, what do you want to do? Good. You come back to where we started, letting the head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And just before we start some movements here, you can bring your hands onto your belly and just settle with your breathing. And how does it feel to have the hands resting on the front of the body, to feel the breath flowing in and flowing out? And so there's many reasons why we all choose to practice yoga. But for me, I suppose one of the most important things is this feeling of being able to feel a bit quieter, to feel a bit more that everything is flowing inside me and also in harmony with the world around me. So when you're ready, you can bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And take a moment to really feel your footprints and feel the back of your pelvis on the ground. And come to letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And seeing how this familiar movement feels. Yes, very nice. So a couple more times, tilting the knees to the right and to the left. Feeling how the weight shifts to the right side of your pelvis and then to the left side of your pelvis. And then settle in the center and come to the movement we did right at the beginning of class, where we're going to tilt the pelvis up and down on the floor. So now we're we're tipping the pelvis towards the head and away from the head. Feeling the lower back arches a bit more and then flattens out a bit more. And from this tilting of the pelvis, whenever you're ready, you can go on into a couple of bridge poses. So again, coming back to these movements, that's it, we did right at the beginning of class. And the bridge pose is such a helpful movement to do it, repeat it lots. And this feeling of, as we roll up and down, how does our spine feel? How do the muscles around the spine feel? How does it feel to pick our vertebrae off the floor and place them back down? So a couple of bridge poses in your own time. And then the next time your pelvis comes back down on the floor, settle your pelvis and keep your right knee bent and your right foot standing on the floor. And lengthen your left leg out on the ground. So we're going to do this, I suppose, half bridge pose movement, but remember where we stay heavy through the left side of the body. So you're going to be pressing into your right foot, letting the right side of your pelvis come away from the floor and letting your pelvis tilt to the left. So I know you all know this one really well. That's it, good, good, Rashmi, lovely. So do this a few times. So I find this movement it's you know, my body really likes it, and I find it just soothing for my mind, and it makes me, yeah, just feel very sort of settled. So do this maybe 3 or 4 times. Keep making sure you're very steady in that foot you're pressing into. Good, Rashmi, that's very good. And you're sending your knee forwards over your footprint. This is the right knee. It's very sweet with Atticus sitting on you, Rosie. We're going to add in a variation here. So I'd like you to give yourself a hug. So keep your right knee bent. Give yourself a hug with your right arm on top. So what you're going to do now, as you press into your right foot, you're also going to roll across the back of your shoulders. So you're rolling towards the back of your left shoulder. And you trail your right fingers on the floor away from your body. That's it, Rashmi. Good. Good. And then come back down again. So what we're feeling is that we roll all the way over towards the left side of the body. That's it. So Rashmi, the same thing with the knee. Keep sending the knee forwards. Don't let the knee roll to the left. That's it. So you're still pressing down into your foot. The right side of the pelvis is coming off the floor, but also the right shoulder is now coming away from the floor. Good. So your weight is, throughout the whole length of your body, your weight is shifting towards the left. Very nice. And this really gives us this lovely massage throughout the whole of the back of the body. Good. So maybe do that once or twice more on this side. That's it, yes, exactly. And then when you come out, just uncross your arms, maybe lengthen both legs out. Just feel the length of your body on the floor for a moment. So I'd have both legs long for a moment. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. We'll move on to side 2 in a moment, but it's nice to feel ourselves long. And then when you're ready, of course, bending your left knee, standing your left foot on the floor. So start off just with, start off with your arms by your sides and just finding that movement of pressing into the left foot. And it might be that you coordinate that pressing into the foot with your exhalation. So as you exhale, you press into your left foot, the left side of your pelvis comes away from the floor. You feel your left ribs coming off the floor a little bit, coming along with the pelvis. And whenever you're ready, you can add in the arms, giving yourself a hug with the left arm on top. And then as you press into your right foot, you also, your left foot, pressing into your left foot, you also roll across your upper back. So your weight rolls towards the back of your right shoulder. Your left fingertips can reach out on the floor, over to the right, away from your body. And so keep moving in and out of this movement. Pressing into the left foot, rolling across the back of the shoulders, reaching your left fingertips out on the floor towards the right. Don't let the knee wander too much over towards that, over towards the right. A couple more times if you like. And then uncrossing your arms, again, lengthen out both legs for a moment. Feel the length of your body on the floor, feel the breath coming in, feel the breath leaving you. And then the last thing we're going to do is just revisiting bridge pose a couple of times. So both knees bent, both feet standing on the floor. Seeing how it feels for a final time today to come back to these movements, rolling up and down through our spine. Again, what we're looking for is to be heavy through the footprints and to maybe feel fluid through the spine. Very nice. And to let the breath flow in and out as you want to. And then before we settle down quietly with our breathing, it might be nice to, that's it, fold your knees into your chest. And you might also like to take your legs up to the ceiling, give them a bit of a shake out. We're going to finish lying down, so just make sure you're going to be comfortable and warm. So settle down onto your backs, or if you prefer, yes, if you prefer to sit, that's absolutely fine. And we're going to, so some of you who joined me last Friday, we worked with one of these Thich Nhat Hanh, the gatha meditations, where we have a focus for our in and our out breath. And we're going to do, I think, 2 or 3 sections of a different one. And this is very much focusing on our breathing. So it just gives us a very simple focus for our in and our out breath as we lie or sit for, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes. So our first focus is breathing in. I know I am breathing in. Breathing out. I know I am breathing out. So we'll stay with that for a few cycles of breath. So you could be saying that to yourself, breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Or you could just be saying in and out to yourself. So naming each part of the breath. But perhaps the most important thing is the feeling. So feeling the inhalation, feeling the exhalation. And then breathing in, my breath grows deep. Breathing out, my breath goes slowly. So breathing in deep, breathing out slow. Breathing in, my breath grows deep. Breathing out, my breath goes slowly. And then finally, smiling to my body, I breathe in. Releasing the tensions in my body, I breathe out. So smiling to my body, releasing tensions. Stay with those focuses for a few more cycles of breath. Smiling on your inhalation, releasing tension on your exhalation. Taking your time, I'm going to unmute. Yes, try and unmute you without muting myself, which as I invariably do. Now, Rosie, was that Alma we just saw wandering?
Yes, that was. We've got them both now. They're scampering around. But yeah, that was Alma who hopped on. So I missed the last bit. Couldn't move. Oh. But she enjoyed the Thich Nhat Hanh. She was definitely breathing slow and deep.
That's
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kara.
It was lovely to come back today. It's a bit gloomy, isn't it? So.
Yeah. See you on Monday.
Everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Kara. It's lovely. Bye.
Bye. How you doing, Marie? You okay? Yeah, I can never hear you. You seem to be muted.
No, I think I muted myself by mistake. I don't know. Anyway, I've just unmuted myself. So I am fine, thanks. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And I think they will change the distance to 1 meter soon. So,
do you think so?
We're the only country who has 2 meters. We've done everything wrong, haven't we?
We have. This is what my Italian neighbour I was chatting with before classes. You know, she was just like, why am I in this country? So,
I know. So I think in order to get kids back to school and get, I can't see my family, but I can go to the pub or Henny's or something like that.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you can't. All that thing about you as a grandparent, you couldn't see your grandchild, but I could have your your
Yeah.
daughter could have a paid
Yeah, you
nanny
know,
in the house.
and they don't think about the people side of it. They just concentrated on the economy. But I think that 1 meter, that 2 meter rule will change. But
Well, I was interested. I was reading something briefly on The Guardian today, which was saying that the politicians are really trying to change it, aren't they? But the scientists are digging their heels in over it.
yeah, but I kind of think it's too late almost, really. You know, if I can go down to the co-op down the road, I'm nearer there than I am anyone else. You know, I'm certainly not 2 meters when they're stacking the shelves and I go by. So
Yeah.
And then you might as well have your hair cut, which would make a big difference anyway, and support
Yes.
small businesses.
Yes, it would.
Oh, here she is.
It's the puppy.
Oh,
I'll have to go anyway. Lots of love, Kara.
Lots of
See you
love,
next week. Bye for now.
Oh, look at Sarah. She's so sweet.
Say hello.
Hey.
oh.
Oh, she's adorable, isn't she? Oh,
Oh.
oh, she's so...
Tummy.
She looks like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth.
I know.
She does look very chilled.
all the time until she goes in her pen, and then she's got the loudest yowl you've ever.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, we're in a semi-detached house, so there's the whole panic about the neighbours, isn't it? The sort of you do it like butter wouldn't melt.
Oh.
She's looking
You have to carry her around in one of those slings like they do babies.
Yes, yes. Yeah, because it's like 5 weeks before she can go
Yeah.
to class. So
Yeah, we used to have. There was a little bag. I had like a little bag that I kind of put. It was like.
yeah, so I thought maybe
Yeah, I had Otto in a sling, but then I suppose at that point you could, it wasn't it? I was trying to walk Daisy, and also you could go to a cafe. So I used to take him to the bakery. You're like, now you can't bloody go anywhere, can you?
you know, they say it's so much better. The problem with dogs now in lockdown is, especially Labradors are very, you know, outgoing anyway. So it's not like they need loads of socialisation, but they're getting too much attention because everybody's at home. And apparently creating these nightmare dogs, you know, when they're 6 months old or something. So she has got to be left on her own.
Yeah.
Learn, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, it is, isn't it? Because I've got the situation where Otto is just not good at being left on his own because he was always with Daisy, and then we're not going anywhere, you know. And when I do go somewhere, I take him, and he's out.
I don't think I've left Otter on her own since March.
Yeah.
It's not good, is it? I never thought I'd have a dog I couldn't leave on their own, but then also, like you said, there's partly nowhere to go, is there? Though.
Yeah.
The place I go is like the park or the beach, and you can take your dog. So.
And do you find if you go out with your dog, I don't have one, but that people gravitate towards you to pat the dog?
That's a point too. With a puppy, you're going to have
Puppy, yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting because you usually are.
Yeah, no, that was another thing the breeder was saying, that it's good for them, particularly dogs, because they're not dogs that are nervous of people, so they don't need lots of, you know, out and about greeting. And they're saying it's better because normally you go to the park and everybody falls over your dog to stroke it, and it's much better for her to just not think she's
yeah, and then they run up and jump up and everyone goes, how sweet, and it's actually not sweet at all. You want them,
that's right, and then they jump up at children, and and you get them out.
She's so cute.
She is quite mellow. I mean, I deliberately.
She does look very mellow.
Yeah.
I know the girl that who bred them, and she's done yoga with me, so she was sort of saying, her name was Nora, but she's now Mabel.
Yeah, Mabel's nice.
But she was saying that she said, "Oh, I picked her for you. I think she's the one that would be, you know, a good one for you, Sarah." And then when we went to see them, we were allowed a garden visit about 3 weeks ago. There was another one of her sisters, who was also the smaller one in the little, who was like angelically beautiful. Obviously, you are too. But you could just tell she was the ringleader. She was the naughty one.
You don't want that one, do you?
I was thinking, I just so don't want that one. I mean, before I know what they grow into.
Oh, she said, another friend's getting a black. She sent me the film. It was black and gold, and she's getting another black. She lost her black lab, I think, about a year ago, and she's about 2 weeks.
I think I would have preferred. Well, I thought I really wanted another black one, but actually,
it was Phoebe Black. I didn't realise.
Yeah, but there's something very special about having this colour because it almost feels like a new dog somehow.
Yeah,
in a good way. And even Mark, my husband, who was not at all keen, he's now saying, "Oh, she is lovely. She is lovely."
Oh, really? Oh, great.
There you go.
He just curls up and falls asleep on his feet. She's just kind of quite adoring of him. So I think
she knows where she has to like.
Working her magic.
Yeah. Anyway, goodbye. I'll see you next
Bye,
week.
Frances. Lovely to see you.
How are you doing? Are you
Still a bit breathless.
Yeah, you still sound a bit. Oh goodness.
Yeah, it's but I like to think it's still improving. I'm trying not to feel that it's plateaued because I couldn't run at the moment. And just hope it's gradually keep improving.
I mean, it's just that time, isn't it? For yourself. Yeah, it's been a long time. I'm sure it's very
it has since the end of January.
Oh,
so yeah, it's been a long time. Anyway, miles compared to what some people have had, so I won't complain. Right, bye. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Mabel, she's so lovely. Thank you, Sarah. I'll see her.
Yeah, it's really lovely to see her.
Oh.
And your Wi-Fi is brilliant, Sarah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Finally got it sorted. A guy came yesterday and in 45 minutes.
Oh, it's great.
All my issues and problems, and he just went, "Okay, I've got all these gadgets. I'm going to try them all." And 45 minutes later, he said, "You've got a really strong connection, and it's going to get stronger."
So how did he do it? Is there an actual cable? No.
No, everything I was trying, which I'd been advised to do, the beaming it up the garden, he said none of the things you've tried and the gadgets you've bought, and I've even had a BT engineer out here, he said none of them are designed to go to a garden, and actually this is all plugged into the electrics, so it's a cable through the electrics.
Right, okay. He just felt did he think you've been badly advised, basically?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've spent a blooming fortune trying to get this. But I guess the good thing is I'm not getting another, because my only other option was to get another line in. And I was thinking, that would be ridiculously expensive. So in fact.
Yeah. And it's not like you're going to be back to teaching people anytime soon, are you? So.
No. What is going to happen?
I know. I was thinking about, so did you get that offer, I don't know, for Zoom for the next year to pay at 30% discount? And I'm still considering it because I just,
wow.
Who knows?
Do you think you might even end up doing one class on Zoom a week, or do you think your students are so local it wouldn't be worth your while?
Well, I've got a few people who are actually not so, people I used to teach who aren't so local now. So I don't know really.
No.
Hard to say, isn't it? And then again, people who are single parents, it's you think actually, in a way, it's much better to do a class than have to pay for a sitter. And then so I think that's another area where there's definitely potential to do it.
Yes, and we're not traveling and spending time and looking for parking places and all the rest of it.
Yeah, so I think, especially come the winter, you think, actually, are people going to be going to like that, not having to leave their house? Go out, I don't know. Oh, anyway, I better go because I've got to go to the garage. I've got a lot going with my car locking.
Mm-hmm. Lovely to see you both.
We must do a walk
Bye.
soon. Bye.
Bye. Bye.